Welcome. Oh, were you? Oh no! If you want to do your, I love hearing your creative take on the intro. Are you a little sad that we're not doing our Christmas intro anymore?
Yes, but don't worry because I still have it set as my alarm clock.
I figured as much. Yeah, year round.
And my ringtone for when I get phone calls only from PK, basically.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's nice. Welcome to another episode. Do we have any housekeeping items?
We have a Limbo Champion Patreon.
Woohoo! What
shout
up?
out. Sarah Spellman.
Hey, Sarah.
Quick question. Are you related to Sabrina?
Were you also a teenage witch?
Yeah. That was two quick
questions. We each have a question.
I feel like we're in that episode of Parks and Rec where Andy goes to the doctor and he's like, they microwaved my ankles.
I love the outtake of that where he's like, I just keep wiping and wiping and wiping. It's like, if you missed last week's episode, we talked about pooping a lot.
There was a bit of downstairs boom time mentions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about periods. We talked about puberty. We talked about how awkward we were. Yeah, anyway. So this week we're talking about continuing our hormone conversation. We are continuing talking about like these different eras of hormones and how that impacts women's lives. We talked a lot last week about how, there's been studies that are done on ADHD that are on male subjects where they're either controlling for hormones or completely eliminating them from the conversation, which is crazy because we know just in having this basic conversation with two armchair people, yes, that it has a huge impact. Like,
so we didn't talk about it last week, but for men and boys, they go through puberty. They begin, their FSH starts telling them to produce sperm.
Yeah, the FSH and the GnRH created in the pituitary gland. Hold on, let me scroll back so I'm actually saying this correctly and I'm not talking out of my booty.
You mean your malabooty?
I like that she even pulled the Lisa Rinna quiz voice for that. The brain releases the GnRH, which hits the pituitary gland, which triggers the LH and the FSH.
Okay.
To being created. Those then travel through the blood and then signal to the testes to begin producing testosterone and sperm.
So once a boy finishes puberty, what happens with their hormones?
So I didn't research. I decided to give men a taste of their own medicine and eliminate them from the conversation.
Oh, I love
it. But I did listen to, I was reading something or listening to something. Maybe it was a podcast. I don't know. Like fairly recently where they were talking about how there's this concept that like women are the only ones impacted by hormones. And they were like saying all these different things that can trigger a rush of testosterone in men. And there was like this list of like, I don't know, things I just like didn't expect. Like firing a gun was one of them. Like an argument. There's like all these different things that and like in my brain, a rush of testosterone equals half a chub. And I'm not saying that that's accurate. I'm just saying that's the association my brain has.
I don't think that that's inaccurate though, because for this very stupid reason.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
So the movie The Other Guys.
Okay.
With Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. Your two least favorite people.
I actually don't mind Will Ferrell. I like Will Ferrell.
I thought you didn't like him.
I just think he can be kind of annoying.
So, I absolutely love this movie. I think it is so fucking clever. the whole thing. And not only that, but it also talks about Bernie Madoff and that whole Ponzi scheme that crashed the entire global economy in 2008.
We started watching the documentary that Netflix just did on Bernie Madoff, and I had been working on this for like 2 hours before that, and my brain was fucking fried. And I realized I was not paying attention to a single thing. And I turned to my spouse, I was like, we need to turn this off. I'm absorbing nothing. Can't, shan't.
Yeah.
But anyway, won't.
But yeah, so this movie, it's hysterical. Eva Longoria is also in there. Michael Palin of
oh yeah, from Monty Python.
Yeah, of Monty Python fame is in it.
And the movie that Katie and I love, A Fish Called Wanda.
Yes.
I love that movie.
God, asshole.
Ken. Is coming to kill me?
The green ones aren't ripe yet. God, if you guys haven't seen that movie, we're going to sound deranged.
Oh my God, it's so good.
But in the other guys, there's, so Mark Wahlberg's character shot Derek Jeter because he was doing security at Yankee Stadium during the World Series. Jeter had his headphones in and was walking through this tunnel and didn't hear Mark Wahlberg say, like, you need to identify yourself because he couldn't see who it was. Mm-hmm. Shoots him in the leg.
Oh my God.
So they call him the Yankee Clipper. But so he's in this, like, group therapy situation in, like, the opening scene for officers who shot their firearms in the line of duty.
Okay, yeah.
And so, but the scene starts with this guy talking about when he shot his gun in the line of duty. And he's like, why don't we even the odds? And my partner dropped this enormous fucking shotgun to him, basically.
Yeah.
And he's like, I loaded it, and boom, right through his chest. It was fucking great. And the therapist is like, And, Tony, how did that make you feel? And he's like, this is only in the extended, unrated, non-theatrical version. But he answers and he goes, like my cock was made out of concrete.
That's great.
And it's so extreme. But I was like, the first time I watched it, I was like baffled. It cracked me up because I was not expecting. How did that make you feel? Like my cock was made out of concrete.
But they were kind of saying
the same thing where they were all like, and all the guys around him were like cheering for it.
Yeah, because they're all like, we feel the same way. In fact, we feel that way right now.
They all had their little chubbies.
Yeah, and that's what like this. I'm pretty sure I was listening to it on NPR, but they were saying like, you know, there's this concept that like women are the one who are dictated by hormones. Which, don't get me wrong, like we were talking about last week, we're going to talk about this week. There are these major eras in a woman's life where hormones are majorly impacting things. But men are also impacted by hormones. And they were kind of saying, like, if anything, testosterone is just, like, more changeable and, like, easily triggered. Whereas women's are more, like, are more cyclical. And I'm trying to think. They had, like, a list of things that all triggered it. And I don't remember what it was. I'll have to find that, though. Maybe, like, for our next episode, we'll do, like, an update. And there was another point that I had with this. I know. I don't. Oh, it just makes me think like there was this Jordan Klepper clip and he was at like one of these Trump rallies or something. And he's talking to this lady and she's like, women shouldn't be president because what if they get their period and they decide to start a war? And he goes, how many women have started wars? And she just like gave him this like distant blank stare. It's like one of my favorite moments.
I mean, she could have said some things about Margaret Thatcher, but...
But do we think that any of that was in her wheelhouse?
I don't know, Queen Elizabeth? She was kind of in charge of, like, a huge fucking army at some point.
Yes.
But, then again, we're kind of expecting a lot from certain people's supporters.
Correct. So, yeah, I think that there's just, like, it's this weird expectation that women are completely dictated by hormones and have no rational thoughts, while also being completely dismissive of the hormones that we experience, while also not researching the impact that those hormones have on us.
Or really even the impact that hormones have on men, evidently.
Yeah.
Because if it's just like, oh, well, we have this list of things that could trigger it, but, like, why?
Yeah.
Like, evolutionarily speaking, there has to have been a reason
Right.
that those could be which, like, kind of makes sense if you're doing, like, a hunter-gatherer thing and a fucking saber-toothed tiger sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, please give me some testosterone so that I can
Give me
fight
half
back.
a chub so I can fight it.
Yeah, make me chub strong.
Oh.
In reality, I'm still just Giuseppe the tortellini with knives.
Yeah, yep. Who doesn't have the testosterone level to fight a saber-toothed tiger.
But, yeah, no steppy on Giuseppe.
He can poke.
Yeah.
He just can't fight.
So can a chub, really.
You know what? That's a really good point that I had not considered.
You're welcome.
Anytime. So yeah,
this episode's going great.
It is. I think we're doing excellent. We covered a lot in the last episode. So
but that also explains why people were so, like, especially men, were so fucking fired up over, like, Gladiator and 300 and
Chubs.
all, like, Band of Brothers, like, all of those types of movies where you're kind of immersed in the fight.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, Russell Crowe.
We did talk about Russell. Oh, no.
That was Patreon.
Oh, it was Patreon. We talked about Russell Crowe on Patreon briefly.
But also Gerard Butler.
Katie went off on a bit of a tangent. You know who I've always been super into, who was in that Glass Onion thing, is Ed Norton. He's always been like...
Get it. He's like a sleeper cell, yes.
Have you seen 25th Hour?
No. I don't think so.
It's another Ed Norton movie. It's about a guy who gets involved in... like drug trafficking or something, and he winds up going to prison. It's about his 25 hours before he's going to prison. And it is just, it's got Rosario Dawson in it. It's such a good, like, underrated, he's just great in it. I'm such an Ed Norton fan.
I mean, he is exceptional.
What was that one he was in with Richard Gere, where he played the kid that was diddled by the priest? I can't remember the name of the movie, but that had a great twist in it. That's old too. That was like early 90s, I want to say.
Primal Fear.
Yeah. Was it Primal Fear?
Well, I don't know. I just Googled Edward Norton, Richard Gere, and the result was Primal Fear.
Yeah, and there's...
Defense attorney Martin Vale takes on jobs for money and prestige rather than the sense of greater good. His latest case involves an altar boy accused of brutally murdering the Archbishop of Chicago.
Yeah. It was that's a great movie with a great twist in it. But he's just like, his voice, I don't know. I just always thought he was always one of my biggest celebrity crushes.
No, he is very good. I think it took me a while to like him.
Fight Club he was great in.
He was great in Fight Club, but that was what I first saw him in.
Yeah, which is like brutal.
Exactly. Like he, smiles at his boss with a mouth of blood. That was haunting.
It's terrible.
Don't ever make that face again. Holy shit.
You know what I always
Garrett just turned into like a fucking marionette doll and grinned. That was horrible. Holy shit.
Do you ever, in the beginning of that movie when I don't know if it was like an AA meeting or something and Meatloaf has the boobs?
Yeah.
That's, when I think of Fight Club, that's the scene I think of, which is like
Bob
ridiculous.
had bitch tits.
Man.
I think of that whenever I hear about like douche canoe men doing HGH and other like anabolic steroids in order to make themselves feel better about aging.
Yep.
Basically. And
low T is another hormone-based problem that can happen.
I did date a guy that had low T and had to do like a testosterone cream thing to like help with it, but he didn't have bitch tits.
No.
So.
That's good for him. That's nice.
He wasn't, I guess, abusing it to be a bodybuilder, so.
Turns out he was just using it as prescribed.
Yeah.
Which we also talked about in the last episode.
Yeah. But yeah, those bodybuilder people, whenever they're on like Real Housewives or something, and I'm always just like, this is going to make me sound like such a pervert, but I always end up staring
at their balls?
No, at their nipples, because their nipples get so big when they take those drugs.
And pointy. Because
they're triggering an estrogen response.
They could cut glass.
Yeah.
With those nips. I thought you were going to say because it's supposed to like make your balls tiny.
I have heard that, but I guess initially my my idea of that was that it made your actual penis smaller. I don't look. I didn't put thought into it, man. Like.
Side note, that is another thing that happens in puberty. The hormones cause the penis to become longer and wider.
Oh, okay. That probably makes sense because
Yeah.
it's not used for anything other than peeing before that.
But again, I completely eliminated men from this conversation.
Yeah. So there's your fun fact, men.
Yep.
Enjoy your penis.
And you're half a chub. That happens from a list of different things that I will update us with later.
Yeah.
When I find it.
From thirsting over Russell Crowe and Gerard Butler, which, like, same, but I don't get a chub from it.
Yeah. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about, after that slightly off the rails side quest, we're talking about hormones and pregnancy. And we are talking about hormones and the period of perimenopause and menopause. So we were talking about periods, and you go through that ovulatory phase, and you have that surge in LH and FSH, and it triggers the egg to be released. And then your estrogen levels decrease, your progesterone starts to rise, which can give you brain fog. I thought you were raising your hand.
No, I'm just stimming. Sorry.
I don't know why my brain interpreted that way.
Excuse me. I have a question.
I was like, what? Oh my God, we're getting tired.
I was going to say, like, oh, we got a break for lunch. Where's craft services when you need them?
So when that egg is released, there's a 24-hour period that you have for the sperm to be in the right place at the right time, meet the egg, implant where it's supposed to at the right time.
Oh, right, because the whole uterus isn't viable for implantation, right?
Or you'll see an embryo implant in a fallopian tube in an ectopic pregnancy.
Well, yes, yeah.
Or crazy thing that I didn't know that could happen is, so I guess I just never really thought about it, but the ovary is not actually connected to the fallopian tube.
I know.
It's just floating in fucking ether, I guess. So you can actually have a fertilized egg that implants outside of the uterus, just someplace in your fucking abdominal cavity.
Yeah.
What? So anyway, that's another crazy thing that can happen.
So enjoy that anxiety spiral the next time you
about,
try to have a baby, listener.
Sorry about that, guys, but it's one of those
super duper rare. It's almost never happens.
Very rare, but if I hear about it, now somebody else has to hear about it. I have to unload this information on somebody else.
It's like The Ring.
Yes. Yeah. I have to tell another person.
Or a nightmare if you're me.
If you're Katie. Mm-hmm. So that fertilized egg is going to take 40 weeks of gestation, which they count from the first day of the last period, which would be the first day of your follicular phase from last episode. And during that time, obviously we have significant and intense changes and fluctuations of hormones. So there's the HCG hormone, here we go, human chronoic gonadotropin hormone. We're just going to call it HCG because I'm never going to try pronouncing that again. So it's only made during pregnancy. It's made almost exclusively in the placenta, and you can find it. It's something they can find in a blood or urine test. If you do a home pregnancy test, that's what the pregnancy test is reading. Or if you wind up getting a home test, you usually then will go for a blood test with your doctor where they'll tell you what your HCG level is. So there's a sharp rise in that in the first trimester. And the side effects of the HCG include headache, irritability, restlessness, depression, fatigue, tiredness. So obviously, if you have ADHD, that first trimester is going to be rough because things like irritability, restlessness, depression, and fatigue are all going to make your ADHD symptoms worse.
Yeah, it sounds like, so HCG does that at any, I can't remember if you just said it or not.
That's okay. It levels off in the second trimester. So you're not like...
That also cause like that initial weight gain that you have in pregnancy?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if it does.
I would imagine like human growth hormone does, which grows the baby. But it makes sense though that the HCG could like cause weight gain if you're having depression and fatigue and irritability,
right,
and already have a dopamine deficiency, so you start craving carbs more,
right,
to get that dopamine hit,
right,
to like at least wake up.
Carbs and sugar.
Aren't you like not allowed to have coffee when you're pregnant, or like
so I think they want you to have, it's like based on milligrams, which I'll be fucked if I can convert that, but I think usually the guidance is like they don't want you to exceed like 2 cups a day. But yeah, it's just like that's a lot happening in a short period of time.
Right. So yeah, guys, trimester, or for if you don't know, your trimester is each 12-week period of gestation.
Yep.
So that first 12 weeks, including basically the first 2
your
weeks
period.
Of which, you're not.
It's literally like they're counting that first trimester is being counted from the first day of your period. Which
I don't know why. Like I get it, but like
it is weird. Because, like, they're really counting it like that's the last time we knew the egg wasn't fertilized. And I guess, like, if you're looking at it in, like, cycles, like, okay, I can see, like, the beginning of that cycle gets lumped into but it is dumb.
Yeah.
It's ultimately...
But, so the first 2 weeks of that 12-week period is nothing.
Right.
And so in 10 weeks...
Because you're really not pregnant until you're, like, 4 weeks pregnant.
Right.
Based on how that counting goes.
Because you can't take a pregnancy test.
It's not going to pick up anything.
Right. So... basically at a maximum it's 10 weeks of change with this massive spike in HCG,
right,
with all of that going on, but so fast,
right.
And if you're not trying to get pregnant or like really closely monitoring it, like
you could be like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
there is that thing of like, if you're not using any contraceptives, then you are by default trying to get pregnant if you're having intercourse.
Yeah, you're playing with fire.
Right, like that, like if you're not unloading the gun or wearing a bulletproof vest, then
something's gonna happen.
Yeah, you gonna get shot. Like, it is what it is. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
You're gonna get some kind of surprise.
So, but yeah, so in 10 weeks, all that is happening. Which, if you're not expecting to get pregnant or trying, especially if like, I feel like if it's not your first pregnancy and you're nursing and maybe thinking that that's going to stop you producing an egg, which it can sometimes, but it's not at all a contraceptive that should be used.
As we've learned, nothing is guaranteed, and anything can happen.
Yeah.
Pretty
much.
It's
for sure an old wives' tale as like a preventative thing.
Oh, yeah. If you keep nursing, you won't get pregnant.
Right.
Yeah. Ask the number of people that have kids that are like...
Irish twins?
11 or 12 months apart. Yeah.
Which means that the mother would have had to stop nursing or breastfeeding or producing milk. What?
Like 8 weeks.
Yeah, like after the first
8 to 12
kid was
weeks
maybe
after delivery.
3 months old.
Yeah.
Ish, which is extremely early. If you're gonna be producing milk and you choose to do that,
that's a really early point.
Extremely early weaning, barring like a dietary issue or something.
Right, or needing to go back to work and not being able to pump.
Right, because America is a hellscape. Either way. But if you're not expecting to get pregnant, is my point.
You could overlook
a
lot of
these
those symptoms.
Crazy changes with how you're feeling, especially like we said with everything else we have going on. Like these hormones do not exist in a vacuum.
Nope.
So your life, you're moving, you're getting a promotion, you're working on a different project at work, your parents are aging, and maybe
I have something stressful going on.
Yes.
Or in nature's worst practical joke, early pregnancy and PMS symptoms are extremely similar. So you could be experiencing, like I said, I have 2 calendar weeks of PMSing. You could totally crack that up to PMS. If you're like me and you have a long PMS cycle, you could be like, I'm just PMSing. That's what these symptoms are.
For sure.
That's why I'm so tired. That's why I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's why.
Then we get the extra big glass of wine. Oops.
Oops. And keep our fingers crossed later for no fetal alcohol syndrome. So yeah, it really, and we'll talk about this a bunch, but ADHD and all of these different hormone things, it is Russian roulette some of the time.
Yeah.
Your body also produces, this one is called HPL, human placental lactogen,
Ew, sounds so gross.
which is also made by the placenta, and it gives nutrition to the fetus, and it also stimulates the milk glands in the breast to grow, which I'm assuming is what that lactogen is.
That makes sense. That they did name that right. Okay.
Yes, that accurate.
So, what is a placenta?
So the placenta is like an organ that grows specifically to house the baby. It's like not only is the pregnant person's body growing a person, but it also grows a separate organ just to house the person inside the uterus.
That is wild.
And then ejects the person and the organ.
We got to call it ejection now instead of birth.
It is no longer labor and delivery. It is ejection.
Just smash that eject button. You push really hard on the belly button, and
it's like the Staples button.
Yes. So when, I'm just picturing because I've never been pregnant, as far as I know, and
surprise.
I said that once to a guy I was starting to date.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it was that general, oh, do you have kids? And he was like, no, do you have kids? And I was like, no, but I really should call my caseworker back. And he was like, what?
Katie's like, I don't know why we didn't have a second date.
No, we ended up dating for 6 months.
Oh, did you really?
But it was just one of those bullshit things that I say without thinking about how it sounds, because I thought it'd be funny.
Because I'm still in puberty. That's my explanation for the rest of my life.
But so I'm picturing the general picture of a pregnancy announcement that has the ultrasound picture.
Yep.
Where it's obviously the uterus, but then there's a black open space.
Yep.
And then a little
chilling in the placenta
jelly bean thing in there.
There's also
a
black
yolk space is the
because the baby's inside the placenta.
So when the egg attaches to the wall of the uterus, ideally.
Hold on, I'm gonna fact check here.
Sorry.
Oh, the baby might not be in it. It might just be with it and connected.
Because I thought the baby was in the amniotic sac.
So...
Because that's the fluid that, when your water breaks, comes out.
Yeah, no, I'm wrong. It just chills in there with...
So it grows out of the uterine lining?
The baby. The placenta connects the baby to the uterus. Attaches, shortly after conception, attaches to the wall of the uterus. The wall, I just choked on my own spit. The wall of the uterus, the baby is connected to the placenta by the umbilical cord. So the placenta and the umbilical cord are the lifeline in the uterus.
Okay, so the umbilical cord is in baby's belly button.
To the placenta.
To the placenta to the uterine wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll just backtrack what I said a minute ago. Speaking of our sex ed is not sufficient in the United States.
We're all going to learn together like we do every week.
Yep.
So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that, so that the fertilized egg attaches to the wall and then, the placenta kind of balloons between the egg and the uterine wall.
So before there's a placenta, there's a yolk sac. And the yolk sac, which I've read described as being a granola bar, it's there before the placenta forms. That does
not describe any yolk I've ever seen.
I would argue a yolk is nothing like a granola bar.
Looks like a granola bar. You need to run very far away from that egg.
Don't eat that egg.
Forbidden egg.
A cursed egg. That's with the cursed ham.
Yes.
From the Krampus episode.
Mm-hmm.
Before the placenta actually forms and takes over, there's a little yolk sac that exists that provides nutrition and gas between the mother and the embryo. So
nutrition and gas?
Yeah, I guess I'm assuming like oxygen.
Oh,
I don't think it means
the
farts.
baby's just tooting up a storm. That's why
Yeah,
you feel bloated and you think it's PMS.
right.
Because it's just baby farts.
So it looks like at about 10 weeks, the yolk sac gradually gets smaller and disappears, and the embryo absorbs it. And then the placenta is developing.
It was my tween.
It's going to be a bad episode.
My big fat Greek wedding.
We are on the struggle bus. Man, my mind is so blown about the placenta.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
I
like,
totally thought
I
the baby
knew
was
about
in the
them.
placenta.
Oh, no, I knew they weren't. I didn't think they were in the placenta. I was wondering if the placenta was in the amniotic sac with the baby. That was the part that I wasn't sure of. And, like, I knew they were separate and you had to deliver the placenta.
Yeah.
But then I just, as usual, got hyper-focused on how the placenta is made. And the fact that it's technically an extra organ.
Right.
Which is, I mean, like, I get it. To call it an organ makes it almost make more sense that people eat it post-delivery.
Does it make more sense to you?
Well, because people will eat, like, liver. I don't.
Side note, I had a coworker one time that microwaved liver and onions in the office that we worked in.
Shout out to Mo Collins yet again. Liver and onions.
In the microwave.
Look what I can do.
A filtering organ. Microwaved.
My grandpa used to get liver and make it once a week for his kids.
Oh my god.
And I think it's like such a Depression era thing to be like, you are going to get your fucking iron by hook or by crook. Like, you will be the most nutritionally sound people.
Just the thought of, to me, that's like eating a sponge. Like you're eating
liver
something
and lima
filtering.
beans was their meal. And now none of my aunts and uncles eat lima beans.
Or organs. Weird.
Yeah, so like calling it an organ. Also, there's that thing now. It's like a trend of lotus birthing, they call it.
Oh, yeah, that's why they keep them attached,
Yes,
right?
they don't detach. They
until
don't cut
the umbilical cord like detaches from the belly button.
Sloughs off the baby, and they like quote unquote preserve the placenta.
That's gonna stink though.
Well, they like they cover it in like herbs and salt it basically, and like keep it like so. In addition to carting around a newborn and feeding it, and also recovering from ejection, you also are carrying however much this fucking placenta weighs, which is probably equal to what the baby weighs, so like maybe another 8 pounds, in a stainless steel bowl around your house. Like, absolutely not. I would never. But evidently that's a trend that's
I know, I'm like trying not to judge, but also I'm like, apparently the placenta weighs about 1.5 pounds.
Okay, well, it's still cumbersome as hell. Because the cord
it's
is
just
also really long.
It's a big bloody sack.
Yeah, no, it's nothing like, you know, I understand that some people swear by it for maternal health, as far as like getting as much vitamins and hormones to kind of like boost you through ejection and the craziness that happens to your body immediately following birth. But I'll just drink more milk. I don't know. I can't. I don't.
As a vegetarian, that would be a hard pass for me.
But you would consent, so it would remove the lack of consent that general meat eating has.
God. Oh God, what a thought.
Yeah, I don't see my. I could see doing the whole tree thing where you plant a tree over it or whatever the hell.
Yeah, I think generally it's just going to be...
I just can't picture myself telling the hospital staff to please pop it into a Tupperware so I can take it home with me.
I have a leftover bag from Hannaford. Can you just like toss it in that? And yeah, I can't even wrap my head around that. I can see myself being like, can I look at it? I'd want to see it.
I would for sure want to see it.
And like probably touch it, but that's about it.
It's got to feel weird to give birth to that too.
Do you mean eject?
Yeah, to eject the placenta. Because like, I mean, I also only like in the last 10 years learned that was part of giving birth.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I just thought you have the baby and then they wipe off the goop and give you the baby and then you have the baby. The end. All you have to do is wait for the epidural to wear off. But I would imagine if you don't have an epidural, it's got to feel like passing a huge clot.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
But you might just be numb after ejecting a watermelon. So.
Also possible. Obviously, we know estrogen and progesterone are definitely playing a role. Estrogen is normally formed in the ovaries, but it's also made by the placenta during the pregnancy to help maintain a healthy pregnancy. So in that first trimester, combined with HCG, there's like a sharp rise in estrogen. And ultimately, like, the physical side effects may dampen any positive impact that can have, because it is just such a sharp, intense rise with the HCG that for a lot of people, it's going to wipe out any positive impact on their ADHD.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, some pregnant people report that their ADHD greatly improved during pregnancy, probably because the higher estrogen.
Well, yeah, I would imagine so, especially because, like we've said before, ADHD is for sure a spectrum disorder.
Yep.
So...
And is going to present a little bit differently in everybody.
Just like a pregnancy presents differently in everybody,
right. Right. Everybody's experience is a little bit different. So it makes sense that this would be the same thing.
Which also explains why cishet male researchers avoid it.
Yes.
Because it's complicated.
It's complicated and hard to pinpoint because it's so different. And then the progesterone, which also made by the ovaries and by the placenta, which is going to stimulate the thickening.
Thackeray Binks!
Of the uterine lining for the implantation of the fertilized egg. And we know progesterone is not a great mix with ADHD. So really, ultimately, like, all hormone levels change during pregnancy, mostly because, the placenta on its own is producing hormones and stimulating other, like, adrenal glands, thyroids, to also produce hormones.
For the fetus?
I think for both, because you've got all of the biological changes that have to happen with, like, the host body, in addition to all the things needed to, like, grow the new body. Yeah. The spawn. So obviously, like we were saying, you have those sharp hormone rises in the first months, where you have, fatigue, mood swings. It can also cause, like, increased anxiety.
Just because of the hormones or because you're pregnant and nervous?
I think everything.
Yeah. I feel like I would for sure be pregnant and nervous.
And this is definitely like chicken egg.
Yeah.
You've got, especially if you have ADHD, plus a lot of people also having that coexisting anxiety or depression. You combine that with these major intense hormones, kind of like puberty, rapidly changing body.
Yeah.
There's just, a lot of decisions to be made. There's just a lot of things happening at the same time. It's just an intense period.
Yeah.
Some research shows that, like, panic disorders improve during pregnancy, but then there's a relapse of delivery. They said it is possible there's a similar pattern with ADHD.
Okay.
But there's really no studies done with ADHD in pregnancy, so most of this is just, like, anecdotal evidence.
Which is, I would imagine, also kind of hard to do because pregnancy is such a short period.
And nobody will study anything with pregnant people.
Yeah, right. And, like, so even to find a test group and be able to track them reliably,
right,
all at the same time. It's the kind of thing where it's like, to the extent that you can control for various factors or outside factors, it's ideally you'd have 15 pregnant people in the same locale for the same 10-month period.
Right.
And all of them are pregnant with only male babies.
Yeah, example. It really is a tough control group. And
because otherwise, think of, okay, so going back to last week's, listening to podcasts back catalog. So rather comparing a pregnant person's experience from July 2016 to February 2017 versus February 2017 to November 2017, like that stress period and what's going on in the world is so different.
Or oh gosh, a yawn. Or somebody that got pregnant and delivered in 2019.
Yes.
Versus somebody that got pregnant and delivered in 2020 or 2021, night and day.
Exactly.
The difference in those experiences.
So then, and like those stresses obviously affect your hormone levels. And again, in 2020, you probably didn't have too much going on at home to...
Just anxiety.
Just the general stress of, getting groceries and maybe having to use your bare hand to wipe your ass.
Or check the mail.
Toilet paper.
Yeah. Using a sock. Not speaking from experience, just to be clear. Not speaking from experience.
But I would if I had to.
Times got tough.
But yeah, so then it's almost like you'd have to construct a study that allowed for those variables.
Yeah.
In which case, and probably is the reason that there aren't these studies and there isn't too much funding for these studies, is because all of those variables leave that study open for criticism and for fallibility. So you can't finish the study with a definitive, this is what our results showed. It's like, just these are the results.
And you would need to have like a large sample size because it is such a varied thing. And I mean, they have a hard time studying ADHD to begin with because there's so many co-occurring conditions. So it's like
medicated versus unmedicated.
Right.
And, are you medicated for your anxiety? You weren't when we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, and you're still not medicated for your ADHD, but like things change in the course of a year.
Totally.
That you can say like, you know what? No, I'd like to go on some medication. Oh, well, you can't because you're doing the study. So good luck.
Right.
Like,
right. And then dropping out of the study.
Right.
Because then it's like, I'm not, for the sake of science, going to sacrifice myself.
Right.
Personally. And I will say that I don't know that Zoloft has really helped my focus. But if I don't constantly feel like I'm dipping into an anxiety spiral and I don't constantly feel overwhelmed, my focus by nature is a little bit better.
Absolutely. Because my anxiety can force me to hyper-focus on solving a problem that's not a problem.
Yes.
Even now, like, I'm very gently medicating my anxiety, more so to help with my ADHD symptoms. And my negative self-talk, but even then I can catch myself spiraling about what hotel PK and I are going to stay in for our vacation this year. And it's like, what? That is not a 2 p.m. on a Tuesday problem, Katie. It's not even a problem.
Figure outable.
It's not a problem for January even.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much time. And I'm definitely like, I think the Zoloft is keeping me from even starting on the spiral.
Yeah.
So I can have a thought that comes up that normally would lead to like this, Alice in Wonderland feeling where I'm just kind of like falling down and there's a Cheshire Cat and the Mad Hatter. And now it can just be like a passing thought, like, that's something I'm really going to need to work on at some point. But it's not for me to figure out right now. So it's like, it allows me to be rational.
I'm so excited to use that dry erase board you got me.
Oh my God, it's going to be so great. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Garrett got me a dry erase board to match hers for Christmas.
It's going to be great.
My desk at work. I'm so excited.
I love mine. But yeah, it's definitely had a major, just on like how I generally feel on a daily basis. And I think ultimately in the spring, I can probably go to a lower dose because I think the dose that I'm on is going to be too high for the spring and summertime.
I know. I was looking out the window just now and there was like a sliver of blue sky and we haven't seen the blue sky here, guys, in at least 8 days.
Oh yeah, I do see a little bit of it.
Yeah. And I was like,
And that would normally, like, the last week would have been horrendous for me.
The last week was tough. I felt it this past week, and
Yes.
I never feel bad about the winter.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, it's
It was rough. I really had to force myself to go for a walk.
Yeah.
For a couple days, even though the weather was pretty mild.
Yep, it was mild, but it was like rainy and cloudy.
It was just so fucking cloudy.
So
oh my
it just
God.
sucks. It just is like gray and sucks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we haven't seen the blue sky.
I haven't seen sun. And even like, you know, I will say when there's a snow cover, you get the reflection of the sun off the snow, so it feels brighter outside.
Yes.
Than when it's gray. And you can kind of trick yourself.
Yes.
Not working right now.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But man, Zoloft, taking the edge right off.
Whee!
So much better. So just unrelated to pregnancy and hormones and all of that.
Yeah, much ado about nothing, but
If you're struggling and you're reluctant to take medication, it's worth having a conversation with your doctor about.
yeah, we support you either way, but we for sure want you to feel good.
And speaking as somebody who felt horrendous,
Speaking as somebody who watched Garrett feel horrendous,
was overwhelmed and crying all the time, and now I can feel like I can actually take a deep breath night and day.
oh, for sure, the ability to just take that breath.
But also a little bit of saltiness that other people get to be this way all the time without medication. I'm a little mad about.
It's that like tweet that's like, okay, and make this one not have any like serotonin in their brain.
Yep.
And the angel's like, oh, okay, are we going to tell him that? And God's like, little heart emoji, no.
Like he's blowing a kiss. But yeah, so you know, you've got all of those surges happening during pregnancy. And then in the weeks after childbirth, which we'll just refer to as the fourth trimester because there really are 4 trimesters, not 3.
Yeah. I asked my mom about that, if they ever had that, because she worked in labor and delivery for like 18 years. And I was like, did you guys ever like when you were pregnant and having kids, did you have any like 4th trimester stuff? And she was like, what the fuck is the 4th trimester?
She's like, Katie, duh.
As somebody who doesn't say fuck, she was like
3.
Yeah, she was like, what do you mean 4th No, there's no 4th trimester. And I was like, oh, there is now.
You're wrong.
Like they treat it as like a thing now, so that, I mean, I think it has probably helped identify and catch some postpartum depression that people deal with. Not all of it, of course.
No, but I think there's definitely more conversation happening about it. And I will shit on social media till the cows come home, but I think that is one of the few benefits, is I think it's created a lot of visibility for things like that, where people that maybe otherwise, I mean, I have never thought of myself as a person who struggles with depression. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, oh, duh. When the sun goes away, you get depressed.
Yes. Well, right. You use those words.
And then, you know, if I think about it, if I was ever in a 4th trimester, it's going to make me more aware of, okay, you felt this way before, and the last time you felt this way, you were depressed. So maybe what's happening is, in addition to all these other things going on, you're feeling depressed.
And I think, yes, I agree, because it's opened the conversation to be able to say, even to your mom or the person who's helping you kind of adjust to having a newborn or whatever, is, you know, during, I mean, I suppose we're lucky where we are in our careers and who we work for and all that we can take at least 3 to 4 months of maternity leave minimum.
And not have to go back after 6 weeks.
Right. But in that maternity leave period, which can be very isolating because your baby is too little to have most of their shots until they're like 2 months old. Mm-hmm. You can't be cleared to drive, especially if you've had a C-section for a while. So it can be extremely isolating.
And that baby's entirely dependent on you specifically, even if there's a spouse in the picture.
Well, and imagine, you know, the reality is that your spouse likely does not have that same 12 weeks of maternity leave.
Right.
Or paternity leave or whatever, parental leave, to be able to be there with you. Mm-hmm. So then, you know, it's an extremely complicated family dynamic.
Especially in the United States.
Broken.
Right, where you're like spinning plates trying to figure out, okay, if I mash all these different things, it's like having to juggle to make something stick together.
Yeah.
When in reality,
and
like,
you're trying to figure it out. Like, especially a first-time parent, even as a second-time parent, when you're adding in another baby.
Right.
You're figuring it out. You're figuring out the balance. Everybody is. But I do think I agree. I don't think I agree. I know I agree with your thought that social media has helped us be better at just saying those quiet parts out loud.
Yes.
And being able to say to like your mom or your spouse even, or your in-laws, like, I just feel like I'm fucking this kid up.
Yes.
Or if I can't get out of this house and shower and be away from this kid, I am going to step into traffic. I can't.
Yeah, or
I just need.
I can't bond
be quiet
with this child because I'm filled with rage, or I can't stop crying, or whatever it is that you're experiencing. I think it's really good that there's been like a curtain pulled back on that. And I think that really goes for like a lot of mental health related issues.
For sure.
Because I definitely, if this were, 15 years ago, would never have identified any form of seasonal depression in myself.
Yeah.
But now that there is more conversation and openness about it, you're like, oh shit. That's what I'm dealing with.
Especially, what was it? Like 80% you said of people with,
something absurdly high.
Like 80% of people with ADHD end up with seasonal depression or something crazy like that. And it's just like, oh.
Even in the general population.
Yeah.
It's like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 or something. Like that's a lot of people struggling with the same thing.
Exactly. And so then which is also a benefit to just internet access in general, and why it's so important for everybody to have access to the full internet. But to just have that information available.
Definitely.
To be like, okay, it's not just me. Like, the internet is physicked a lot of times. Like, see also January 6th. But there is some really important networking that can happen that is I'm sure has saved many lives.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you think about how many pregnant people or people experiencing a fourth trimester have been able to have a conversation that wouldn't have happened before that could have saved them from harming themselves or harming their child. Or think about how many news stories we've had of women who have harmed multiple children.
Yeah.
Or taken out, half their family because they were, experiencing like a postpartum psychosis, and they had a checked out husband or spouse
Brooke Shields,
who didn't
got blacklisted for having that whole interview where she was like, she's like, I had the clearest image of throwing my baby through the window.
Yeah.
And that terrified me. And like
people were flipping out.
Tom Cruise was like, blah, 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 Scientology, jerk me off.
Yeah. That's exactly what he said.
Yeah, it was a direct quote.
Yep.
And
I pulled it from People magazine.
Yeah. And also The Inquirer.
He said that after the aliens picked him up.
Yes. And also Hillary Clinton is just 3 owls in a pantsuit.
Eating babies.
But yeah, it's just that kind of thing where it's hopefully also helping to shape actual patient care.
Right.
And helping doctors and medical providers, engage with their patients in that fourth trimester.
In a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Right. Where they're really getting honest answers and doing a deeper check-in than how's your incision doing.
Yeah. And I think also kind of, especially in our region and of the world, there's been a real uptick in the use of midwives and doulas. And a licensed midwife and a certified doula is so important for patient advocacy and care.
And they have postpartum doulas too that are really just there to help you through that fourth trimester period.
My friend does. Who just had her baby today.
Ironically.
As the crow flies. But yeah, and it's the kind of thing where, the more that we learn about this and the older I get and the closer I get to potentially having a kid, I'm like, yeah, no, I think I would want a doula just to answer those questions, shoot off a text and be like, is it normal to not have showered in a week, or is it worth saying something? Do I need to ask for help about this thing? Am I cleaning the bottles correctly? Am I, using my breast pump correctly? Those little questions that I can totally see myself feeling stupid and not worth calling my obstetrician about, but also not something the pediatrician is going to answer me
Right.
on.
And like, I mean, you combine it. So like if we're looking with ADHD, so after you're delivering, your estrogen is like dropping off a cliff, which means your ADHD is going to get more challenging.
Yeah.
So now you're in a high anxiety period.
And you've potentially stopped any ADHD medications.
Which I'll talk about. I will talk
Oh,
about
okay.
meds in a second.
Okay.
So you're like high anxiety, sleep deprived, you're adjusting to figuring out this new person, figuring out yourself, a new role,
Yeah.
change in family dynamic, dealing with visitors and trying to put a good face on for people that are coming in. Like all of these things at play with this hormone drop off and just the huge influx of information that you have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a wonder that people struggle during that period of time.
Yeah.
So that it's just so important to be like tuned in and monitoring symptoms, or have your spouse or whoever your support person is tuned in and monitoring symptoms.
Yeah.
Because we know that the co-occurrence of depression, anxiety with ADHD already is high. So your susceptibility to postpartum depression is also much higher. And I always thought like medicating while pregnant was automatically no, that you could not take stimulants. But I guess I was reading on the CDC, there was a study that about 1 in 100 women took ADHD medication during pregnancy. They do talk about potential birth defects, but it's such a small number. So I guess the number of women taking taking ADHD medication during pregnancy has more than doubled between 98 and 2011.
Good for us.
Good job, everybody. Checking in with ourselves.
Yeah.
And they give like a few different birth defects that can happen. But they said that there's some increased risk, but it's just still a very low risk. So this is definitely one of those, like, you need to have a conversation with your doctor about what makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's a very individual decision. It's
And
about
it's like,
risk mitigation.
Right. So they're like the CDC is saying the risk is so low that it's almost indistinguishable from the general population.
Where, like, there's always risk
risk
of
of
birth
birth
defects.
defects,
I mean, they have, like, different ways they categorize medications. And there's a lot of medications that they just go, I don't know, because they just haven't studied it, because they don't study things on pregnant people. So it's an individual decision. I think it's a conversation that if you're really struggling with your ADHD, it's worth having with your doctor, because, like, your mental health is still your health. Like,
Yeah.
it is still something that impacts you on a daily basis. I mean, all I can think is, like, man, that brain fog that I experienced before my period and the first couple days of my period for weeks at a time, that's a really hard thing to be struggling with.
Right. And
if you're trying to keep a full-time job or more than one job.
Yes. And then postpartum, post-ejection, like that, the just insane, from everything that I've heard, it's like a level of tired that cannot be properly described to you. Like, you can only have experienced it.
Yeah, that sleep deprivation. That, like, so when we were doing our sleep episode and saying all other coexisting mental health aside, sleep deprivation can cause, and then we had this list of depression, anxiety, hallucinations. I mean, that on its own has huge implications, especially when you're spreading it over the course of months. Plus, how well are people really sleeping in their third trimester? So you're sleep deprived going into it, sleep deprived for the next few months. So that alone, the toll that takes on mental health, plus the isolation, the just the amount of things that you need to be paying attention to and attuned to, and it's a lot. So it's extra important to also be, when you have somebody in your life, kind of paying attention to, like, are they holding it together okay? Are they doing all right? Do they sound like themselves? Checking in with people.
There's actually a thing. Let me see if I can find it.
I love things.
The end.
End of the episode.
Hold on.
Also, please don't email us about the placenta. We looked it up and we fact checked and we fixed it. As I'm closing out my placenta tabs.
Okay, so certain places, I think there is and if listener, you know the name, but like, so there's a thing I've heard of where it's like a baby registry, but it's a fund for the mother. So she can hire
That's nice.
a house cleaner or go to a spa or
That's
like
nice.
like specifically money for mom to take care of herself when the baby comes.
Yep.
And it was something that I had seen on Facebook like years ago, and I remember thinking, "Oh, that's fucking brilliant."
Yeah, that's
because
great.
like get your hair done, go leave the house for 2 hours, get your hair done,
right,
and then come back. Like,
and then you're not feeling the pressure of, because I think a lot of times people are like, we'll take the baby for the night, or why don't you go away for the weekend? And that takes the pressure off that, because it's like I can leave in a short burst, get something done that's for myself that will make me feel better, but also then come right home and then immediately soothe that anxiety that I'm having about being away.
Right, and give you the physical space that you might need to just be able to take that breath and think clearly of like, okay, these are the things that I need to get done. I'll throw the load of baby clothes and burp towels and burp cloths in the washing machine. Then I'm going to, get this stuff started for dinner because I'm going to make that batch of soup. And then by the time that's done, I can put everything in the dryer, and then at least it's done in the dryer.
Right, it's clean.
Right. And then like you can just sort of figure it out and go from there, and like really just to have that space to like reassess, because it's so hard when you're in the thick of any problem, whether you're postpartum or not, to just take that step back and zoom out and just observe so that you can really tackle whatever your problems are, because the problems aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But you can certainly change the way that you handle them.
If anything, not only are they not going anywhere, but now there's more of them.
Yeah.
Because you have all of these other dynamics at play.
Yeah. So it's this is on babylist.com, where they have different I guess it's like
I think it like aggregates different registries
or something. Yeah. But there's a parental leave fund.
Oh, that's so smart.
On that, an option that you can add to your list.
Yeah, that's really smart.
And I think it's my understanding is like it's similar to like a honeymoon fund for a wedding registry.
Yeah, that's smart. That's a really great
idea. I just thought it was so lovely.
Yeah, that's like a thoughtful thing that's not just about
which is something that I love. Like, I mean, I love for everybody I've known when I've been invited to a baby or a baby shower.
Or ejection.
The ejection shower. I love doing like a gift basket, but like in a diaper bag. So like it's fully utilitarian, and it's like I've included pads and nipple cream and the nipple pad things and stuff that's like awkward to buy, but like I know that women put them on the registry because then if nobody buys it for you, you get a discount on it.
Right, you get a coupon.
So like I'll just buy it, like whatever, it's pad. I buy plenty of them. So.
As we discussed in our last episode about pads, and as we've discussed in lots of episodes about Depends.
Yes. But like, so I'll do something like that, but I love the idea of being able to like give somebody the gift of like a house cleaner.
Yeah.
Because like it is the sort of thing like, which I mean, we've lauded him before, but PK is an excellent gift giver. But he always manages to find something that I would love but would never buy for myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'd never buy the bottle of champagne that he got for me for myself. Right. Like, I'd be like, that's outrageous.
That's silly.
Yeah. Like, I'll get it later.
I'll get Frexine.
I'll find a different reason to, like, kick it down the road. Or, so, like, house cleaner is, like, such a luxury to me that I wouldn't hire it for myself. But if somebody else did that for me,
yes,
perfect.
And you think about like when you're in the thick of, if you just look at it from the lens of depression.
Yeah.
If I'm really depressed, guess what the fuck I don't want to do? Clean my house.
Oh my God. The most basic of chores.
Cleaning my shower, I would rather step into traffic.
Cleaning the bathroom, cleaning the dishes, like
floors,
cleaning my kitchen in any way. Like I want the counters clean. I desperately want them clean, and like white glove service clean. Like I want, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
And like just fucking clean. It doesn't have to be a deep clean, but holy shit, come in twice a week and do a load of laundry and fold it and put it away, and then even if it's put away in the wrong spot, it's not in a pile that I'm stepping over for the rest of the week.
Yes. Speaking as someone who has been living out of laundry baskets for the last month because I haven't put my clothes away.
Oh, it almost happened to me last weekend when I did laundry. I was just home for too long. I had lost my ability to function. Like I couldn't do it.
I need to change. I need to get like a dresser. So I know that my storage needs to change. So I don't want to spend a lot of time putting all this stuff away when I don't really have a spot for it. And I know I need to get a dresser and it's going to change. So like my brain is like, that's a waste of your time.
I'm obsessed with the dressers on West Elm right now.
I was looking at one. They're so fucking expensive.
But I'm like, solid wood.
I know. So I'm very conflicted, and I've been looking for a dresser, and I have a small space. It's like a very specific measurement that it needs to fit, but I like need a dresser. So I'm having a hard time putting things away because I know it's going to be changing as soon as I find the right one. So it's that ADHD thing where I'm just like in a loop of I just need to find the right dresser. But then you get overwhelmed by all the things that are impacted by the dresser. I don't want to spend
all my time putting everything into this dresser because I know it's going to immediately change. That's an inefficient use of my time. So I'm not going to do anything, but then I can't find anything because I can't put anything in the dresser because it's going to immediately change. And so if I were to do that, it would be inefficient.
And the ironic thing is I got those open cubes is what I got to organize my clothes because if I can't see things, they don't exist. Mm-hmm. So I was like, if I have my clothes in this, I will actually wear what I have. Problem being, they get dusty and it just, they also very easily run out of space and I can't really get creative because they kind of have to stay in a neat stack. So there's parts of it that are great and other parts that just don't work. So it's it's not great for sweaters. I can fit 3 sweaters in there.
Yeah.
And then it's filled. So
yeah, my hoodie situation is frustrating.
Washing hoodies, folding hoodies, and storing hoodies.
That's why I'm in such a crew neck phase right now.
Yeah. It's miserable.
Although I did get a hat from Love Your Melon. Fuck.
I love that name.
Oh yeah, you've never heard of them?
No.
Yeah, they donate 30% of the sale of everything to cancer charities or something. And they give away free hats to cancer patients.
Oh, that's great.
It is so fucking warm. I had to get a new one because the other winter hat I had that had the RISD Balls logo on it. Mm-hmm. It was really itchy. And so it would just
it itches my forehead.
Yes, my forehead and my ears, and I just wanted to peel my ear off of my head. And so I had to get a new hat. And so I got this one, and I was like, okay, well, that's a good company. I'll support them.
Yeah.
And it is so warm and so soft. I thought for sure it was going to be a looser knit because it's kind of like a cable knit.
Yeah.
No, delightful.
My hat problem, in addition to I don't like itchy hats, is I just have... It's something about my head shape is just I don't know if it's bulbous or round. I buy hats.
Bulbasaur, you're like a Pokemon.
Yes, and they just slide off the top of my head. So it's
I
either...
don't have this problem. I have that problem with headbands a lot.
Also headbands.
Yeah, I think the back of my head is too flat, so it doesn't hold it down.
Yeah, it's awful.
But this doesn't happen. I'll bring it next time we record.
I just got a Patagonia hat for Christmas, and first thing I did is I pulled it on, and I was like... It fits my head. It's not going to slide off. So I'm still so excited about it. I wore it all day on Christmas because I was just so excited that it was not only soft because it's super, I think it has fleece or something on the inside. So it's super soft, but it does not slide off my noggin, which is such a relief because that's so annoying when a hat slides off.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my hat win. I was really excited because that is definitely something I have a sensory issue with is.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that was a sensory thing until, last month. And then I was like, wait a minute.
That tracks with everything else that we do here.
Yep. That is my personal brand.
We should have called this podcast, You're Gonna Have a Late Life Revelation. Well, not unlike last week and the week before, this hormones topic has run over. So we are going to end it here, and then we are going to pick up next week, and we're going to talk about perimenopause and menopause for the fourth installment of our hormone series, which, like we said on other episodes, there will be more to come.
Katie here, just interrupting Garrett real quick to remind you all to head on over to our Instagram at the bar is ankle high and enter our 5,000 download giveaway. The giveaway is open until 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, February 5th. So head on over now. What are you waiting for?
So we will talk to you next week, and remember to be kind to yourself because the bar is ankle high.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be here next Thursday with a brand new episode to delight your brain juices. In the meantime, the best way to support us is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast streaming platform. You can keep up with us during the week on Instagram and Facebook at The Bar is Ankle High and on Twitter at Ankle High Pod. If you want even more ankle high hot takes in your life and have a few dollars to spare, consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/thebarisAnkleHigh. We post bonus episodes there full of our karaoke attempts, Am I the Asshole discussions, and wondering how we even managed to survive this long. Patreon subscribers also get exclusive access to our secret Patreon-only Facebook group and get added to our close friends list on Instagram. Until next week, remember to be kind to yourself because the bar is ankle high.